If you're sitting there wondering whether a salt chlorine generator is the right investment for your backyard pool, I get it. You've probably spent a few evenings scrolling through endless product pages, trying to figure out if you'll end up saving money or just adding another gadget you'll never really use. The fear of dumping cash on something that won't fit your routine or your pool size is real, and the last thing you want is a system that promises consistent chlorine sanitization but leaves you fiddling with cloudy water every weekend. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the basics of how a salt system like the Hayward Aquarite actually works in the day-to-day life of a pool owner. Instead of hauling and storing bags of chlorine, the unit converts dissolved salt into chlorine on demand. That means you add a modest amount of salt, about a cup, for a 15,000 gallon pool once, and the generator takes care of the rest. In real terms, I've seen families who used to spend $80, $100 a month on chlorine tablets see that bill shrink to under $20 for the salt they initially add. The low operating costs claim isn't just marketing fluff. The electricity draw is roughly the same as a standard pool pump, so you're not adding a hefty new line item to your utility bill. Now, the installation part is where the rubber meets the road. The Aquarite is marketed as simple installation, and for a DIY-savvy homeowner who's already comfortable with basic pool plumbing, that's pretty accurate. The unit hangs on the side of the filter, plugs into an existing power outlet, and the only extra step is running a short conduit for the saltwater line. If you've never touched a pool pump before, you'll probably need a friend or a quick call to a local pool tech, but the process doesn't require cutting into concrete or hiring an electrician. The real hidden trade-off is that you have to allocate a little space on your filter housing, which means the unit isn't ideal if your filter cabinet is already crammed with other accessories. When it comes to actual swimming experience, the safe and gentle on swimmers promise holds up in practice. Because the chlorine is generated continuously at low levels, you rarely get that harsh chlorine smell that can sting eyes or irritate skin. Families with kids, especially those who are sensitive to traditional chlorine, often notice fewer red eyes and less itchy skin after a few weeks. The downside is that salt does have a mild taste, and if you're used to the sharp chlorine bite, the water can feel softer in a way that some people describe as slightly salty. It's not a problem for most swimmers, but if you have a pool that's used for competitive training where precise chemical balance is critical, you might need to monitor the output more closely. Who should actually consider this unit? First, owners of medium to large-size residential pools. Anything from 10,000 up to about 20,000 gallons will get the most bang for their buck because the generator's output scales well with volume. If you already have a standard sand or cartridge filter, the Aquarite slots right in without requiring a whole house upgrade. It's also a good fit for anyone who prefers a hands-off approach. Set the salt level, let the system run, and only check the cell's cleaning schedule a few times a year. On the flip side, if you have a small above-ground pool under 5,000 gallons, the generator's capacity will be overkill and you'll end up paying more than you'd save. Similarly, renters or folks who plan to move within a couple of years should think twice. While the unit is removable, the installation effort may not be worth it if you won't be around to reap the long-term savings. Let's talk about maintenance, because that's the part that can turn an easy-to-use claim into a real headache. The cell that produces the chlorine does need periodic cleaning to prevent calcium buildup, especially in hard water areas. The process is basically a quick soak in a mild acid solution, which takes about 10 minutes every 6 months. If you're not comfortable handling that, you'll either have to schedule a service call or accept a slight dip in chlorine output. That's the practical weakness most people overlook. The easy-to-use label assumes you'll keep up with that small maintenance routine. Skipping it can lead to reduced efficiency and eventually a need to replace the cell, which is an extra cost that isn't covered under the initial purchase price. All in all, the Hayward Aquarite delivers on the headline promises of consistent sanitation, lower ongoing costs, and a gentler swimming environment, as long as you're willing to do the minimal upkeep the cell requires. For a homeowner with a typical in-ground pool who's tired of juggling chlorine buckets and wants a more automated, cost-effective solution, it makes solid sense. If you're looking for a plug-and-play fix for a tiny pool, or you'd rather avoid any maintenance beyond